And we are back on 94.7 FM, and we are still talking about gun violence. We are speaking to Ms. Tara Thomas, Ms. Tara Cash, Michelle Pugh, Dr. Fabre Ford, and Ms. Ruby Harvey, who have all lost their sons to gun violence. When we left, we were going to talk about the grieving process, how you guys are processing this. I know you're all in different places with where you are with the grieving process, and maybe some advice that you could even offer some other parents that are listening in today and starting that grieving process. Maybe it's brand new to them. Speak to that, weigh in on that, if you will. Tara?
Okay, for me, the grieving process really hasn't started for me yet. Yes, I grieve, but I watched the Trayvon Martin documentary, and I heard Sabrina say, you either gotta fight or you have to grieve, and you can't do both at the same time.
Wow.
And I'm still fighting. And I realized it was like a light bulb went off in my head. It was like, wow, I'm not grieving because I'm still fighting. Even though the court system is done, I'm still fighting the justice system, trying to get the laws and different things changed, especially when it comes to plea deals. As far as really like grieving, it's kind of hard. I have good days, bad days, good moments, good hours, bad. It just comes and goes. I never know. But I want people to know that who are in this process, don't let anybody put any time limits on your grieving process or how you grieve or whatever you may do. You have to do it at your own time. You have to do it at your own pace. I had people say, oh, don't make your house out of a shrine. Of course, I order all kind of stuff with Chris' pictures on it. I actually just got a vase in the mail with his picture on the vase. So I'm constantly doing things like that. And that's what I like to do to keep his memory alive, especially for his daughters. The 4-year-old never met her dad, and she doesn't sleep at night. And she goes to sleep when the sun comes up. And so the other morning, about 4:30, she was just sitting up and she was crying. And I woke up and I said, what's wrong? And she said, why did they kill my daddy? And I just held her. And that's a 4-year-old that never met her dad. So I have to deal with that. And it's just a hard process. And I have another son. He's actually 24 now. And so I'm trying to be there for him. Chris was his best friend, and that's all he knew. And so it's just hard. And all I can say is I'm still fighting right now. And once I get through with this fight, then I will grieve for my son.
Yeah.
As for me, I agree with Tara, but my fight is to get up, to want to get up. Mm-hmm. You have to push yourself. You have to make yourself. Some days I just want to lay, and I don't want anyone to call me. I don't want anyone to talk. I don't want to hear from anyone, because something the night before may have triggered me, and you would think, hey, I'm on the grieving process, and then you can see a memory pop up on Facebook, or you can see something that reminds you of your child, and you're back at the beginning of your grieving process. But my fight is just to get up every day, to push myself, to keep going. I guess as same with Tara, I would probably be able to grieve after we're done with the whole court system. And being that it's several people, it's not going to be a speedy process for us. So
Dr. Ford, have you connected, just like Tara and Tara connected with each other? Have you connected with someone that helps you?
Tara, when it first happened, I didn't know anyone. Miss Ruby had lost Clarence, but one day, it was a Sunday, and they had texted me Tara's number, and I was having a bad day. I just couldn't stop crying. But when I called Tara, she answered the phone, and she's like, I know. So she just sat there, and I cried, and she didn't say anything. But to surround yourself with women, even though I have a great husband, my support system is great, but to talk to other people that understand your pain. I mean, yeah, my husband, he was a great stepfather to my son, but to talk to other women that can understand how I'm feeling, my thoughts. I'm not crazy because I'm thinking this. I'm not crazy because I walk through the house and I talk to JoJo like he's here with me.
Yeah.
So I'm not crazy because I walk in his room is just like he left it. I had 4 years and I'm not touching his room. I don't plan on touching his room.
You know,
And
that's an interesting concept. I want to share with you all. I have a friend that lost her son. He was 11 years old. It was not to gun violence, though. It was in a car wreck, and she was actually driving the car when it happened. And she talks to me quite often about how she talks to her son. She feels his presence there for, I think when we started this little quarantine stuff, there's a red bird that shows up every morning on the windowsill. It's all kinds of things that don't freak me out when I hear the stories. I actually feel great that something's comforting her, and that she feels a closeness to Maddie is what we refer to him as. And so I just think that's amazing because, you know, Mother's Day, when we talk about love and that connection that we have with our children, and to hear you guys, even in this case, in these kind of scenarios, you can still feel your children and feel close to them. That's amazing. Yeah.
I would say, Brenda, I think we all have had those red bird moments. And so when I see a red bird, I just feel so happy and so joy. And it reminds me that Curtis is always with me and he's always around me. But I just want to speak about the grieving process is that's a lifetime. It's a lifetime. It will never end. You have your high day, your highs, and you have your lows. But the thing that I always remind people of is that you can't do it alone. You cannot grieve alone. You have to find help. And that help, it doesn't have to be professional. It doesn't have to always be professional, but you need to find help from someone that you can talk to. Mm-hmm. Surround yourself with positive people. You know, you don't want to, you know, because sometimes when you're talking to somebody that's negative, they can pull you way down. And if you're in a good mood and you pick up the phone and call somebody that's negative, you're not going to feel good. So surround yourself with positive people. Take care of yourself. You know, we talk about self-care. Allow yourself some time to, you know, if you want to go to the movies or have a nice dinner, make yourself happy because, you know, I truly believe that my son would want me to continue to be happy and he wouldn't want me to, you know, crying all the time. So I try to do things to make myself happy because I know he would want me to be happy as well.
Mm-hmm. That's right. You know, everyone, you know, I was going to say that everybody grieves differently and that's okay. Sometimes it may take some a lot longer and some never, like you said, get over it. And you'll never get over the death of a child, never, ever. But God gives you strength to go on. It's been 6 years for me. So as time goes on, it gets a little better, not that much, but God gives me strength. And my son Clarence was very happy, handsome, young man, 25 years of age. And Caleb Mentor, y'all may know him. You know, he's just out there doing his thing, and Clarence encouraged him to get on, to start dealing with his purpose, walking in his purpose. He's been doing just that, walking in his purpose. And so it's okay if you feel crazy one day. You know how that saying says, sometimes I feel like a nut and sometimes I don't. And that's how grievance is. You know, it's like you're living two different lives. One day you're up, next day you're down. But we have to realize that it's okay. And honestly, I tell people, you don't understand my story. Unless you've walked in my shoes, you don't understand. Because sometimes what happens, I had a person to tell me, you mean you're not over that yet? It's been a while. It doesn't matter. Your child is sitting right there. You don't understand my story. And that's how I tell her, you don't go there. So what I'm saying is we just have to, you know, support each other. and find some positive people to hang out with. And when we feel down and out, I know how to pick up the phone and call Michelle or call maybe Doc Fab or whomever, because I know you understand. You understand. And then there are other women, so many women that we're reaching, because some people can't talk about how they feel. They keep it on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really bad. So we just have to express ourselves and give it to God.
Yeah. Michelle, I know you're in a different place. Um, can you speak to it where you are?
Forgive me, I forget. I'm in a very bad place at this point because this is only a year for me. And so I'm still in the process of comprehending this. I think sometimes, like Dr. Fab said, I sometimes even going into thinking my son is overseas. He's gonna come home, he's gonna walk through that door. I still sleep with the lights on at night, thinking, waiting for him to come home. April, May, and June, because his children's birthdays are in April, May. Him and I share the same birthday. My birthday would never, ever be the same. It's not a celebratory kind of day for me. It will be one day probably, but at this point, it's still so much hurt, so much loss, so much. I can't even go to the grave site because when I go there, it reminds me that there's a body there. He's not there. His spirit doesn't be there, but there's a body there that represents that he's not here anymore. And so for me, it's still very difficult. I mean, I'm grateful that I have two beautiful grandchildren. I used to fuss. Oh my God, people probably can relate to me. It was like, you're going to raise with 2 and 3 different baby mamas. Yeah. But I'm grateful that I have these grandbabies. I'm so grateful. I'm fortunate that I get an opportunity to spend the whole entire summer with them. I'm grateful that I can look in their eyes and I see a resemblance of him in them. But at the same time, when I see them accomplish something, I'm crying because he doesn't get to see that. Yeah. He didn't get to see them riding their bike for the first time. You know, he doesn't get to see that. So it's still very hard for me. Very hard. But I believe in prayer. I believe in pushing through on the days I don't want to get up, like Fab said. There are many days, if I can just get up, I can get through the day. Just get up. And so I'm pressing. That was my thing. It's press through that and I'll get through the rest.
Yeah. What do you guys think the underlying issues are with gun violence, or at least some of that? And Ms. Thomas, you talked about that you're trying to, change some laws, and I really want us to talk about that a little bit too, because in the last few shows that I've had and talking about race relations in America, and I've been asking the question, about this voting process. I think because we don't like the president that's in the White House right now, we think in terms of that big election, right? But we don't think in terms of voting for the DAs and those people on local levels, that the prosecutors and all the people that really can have an impact on what happens in our lives. What do you think some of the underlying issues are? And talk about some of the things that you're doing to prompt change in terms of trying to get these laws changed.
Okay. Well, first of all, as far as the voting, I think we are not aware of a lot of the laws that are being passed surrounding gun laws, even paraphernalia, contraband, or whatever you want to call it, in prisons. For me, my case, the murderers were charged with first-degree murder. My son's murder was caught on video. And when my son first died, the prosecutor showed us the video. I saw the video, and of course, I'm glad I did see it, because now I know that they altered the video towards the end when they took the plea deal. So for me, the prosecution, we have to make sure we're putting the right people in the right place. They told my husband and I that we were not the victims. They also told us no matter how much time the boys got, wasn't none gonna bring Chris back. They treated us real bad. They actually treated us like we were the criminals. They harassed like some of Chris's friends that were in the car or in another car as if they were the victims. So we have to kind of like make sure that we stay on top of that. I have written everybody all the way up to Washington, D.C. We really don't get any responses back. I email a lot of the stars, and I keep emailing. I was up to 3:30 the other morning, and I was kind of like, after they put George Floyd to rest, I was like, okay, now what are we gonna do as far as fighting this black on black crime? They taking the plea deals because they want to put these young men back out on the streets real fast, and so they can kill some more. I did not know when they told us the plea deal was 15 years at 100%. So I said, okay, well, I wasn't happy with it, didn't want it, but I'm thinking, okay, 15 years is like a long time. And I'm thinking at 100%, not knowing that nobody does 100% if it's not fed time. So I've never dealt with the justice system, so I don't know. So
Right.
long story short, they earn 16 days credit a month for good behavior. So they will not get out on 2029 like they told us. Their time is steady going down. They don't get in trouble.
Yeah.
So these are things that I wasn't educated by because I didn't know anything of it. But these are things that people need to know. And like I said, they have cell phones in jails. They're on Facebook. I've called the jails. I've done all of these things, and nothing seems to help. And I think this is what's wrong with, this is the underlying problem, because when you go to jail, it's not jail. It's like boot camp, or you off at high school. I mean, I have one that's on Facebook. He's showing his watch. He's showing his gold chain. And I'm calling like, okay, does he have a watch and a gold chain? They can have whatever they want. So these are things that I feel like we really need to check into, because if we don't, this is just going to be a revolving door of people getting in and out, and then coming back out committing these crimes again. So we do need to know and be educated about what they're saying, and everything that they tell you is not truthful. So you have to make sure you do your research. And I think if we as victims have more say in these plea deals or whatever they offering, then I think we can make a change.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Ford, you want to weigh in on that?
I'm sorry, I forgot.
That's okay. So we're just talking about what are the underlying reasons for gun violence? What do you believe they are? And like what kinds of things? She was just kind of talking about the things that she's trying to do to prompt change and get some laws changed. And, and I know, like I said, that all of you guys are at different places with your cases. So
my case is still fresh. And especially with COVID, it's pushing everything back. We're supposed to be, one was in May, it was pushed back maybe September. So I don't know. But I do know now that I'm reading more. Just like all of us, it didn't have an impact on us at first, but now that we are victims of gun violence because we lost our kids, I want to know more about it, about the gun laws. I think, if I'm not mistaken, now it's easier for them to get a gun permit now. And I'm like, oh my, so you can just go online now, right, and get it, from what I was reading. Is that okay? So yeah.
You don't have to go through a course. You don't have to take that class anymore, sit through those hours class to get your permit. You can go online to get a gun. And another thing that I think is the underlying issue is, first of all, our children are raising themselves. There's an absenteeism of fathers in the home, economics, jobs. When people don't have jobs or money, then they go out and they get guns to do illegal things. We don't have enough Black men mentoring our young boys in society. So until we can fix that and we can get into the schools, we can't start at 15, 16, 17 years old. We need to start in elementary school, talking to the kids about gun violence and preventing gun violence and how to resolve conflict. Not, we can't do it when they get 15 or 16 years old. We need to put some programs in the elementary school that would help deter some of that. And then again, those stiffer penalties. I definitely don't think, although the boy that killed my son was not intentionally trying to kill my son, I definitely don't think 90 days was enough time because he was negligent. So he took a life, but he only got a slap on the wrist for taking my son's life.
Yeah.
I think too, another underlying issue is there's a stigma on our Black men. Like, everybody is not a thug. You have some of these educated Black men who come from good families who are loved by many. And so we need to try to change that stigma that we have in our Black men. All of our Black men don't end up in prison. We have some very educated doctors, attorneys in our families. And so just changing that stigma about our Black males.
Yeah. Let's talk about, I'm sorry, Ms. Harvey, you wanted to add something to that?
I was going to say, in my opinion, some underlying issues surrounding violence is that in our community could be that children are not receiving enough attention from their parents. The parents are too busy doing their own thing and neglecting their children, and they're not involved in structured activities and have very little to do. And some kids are being raised by watching television and also spending more time on the cell phone, doing nothing. And kids are watching their parents fight like cats and dogs, fighting each other, cursing each other out. And they don't have any kind of positive role model to follow.
Yeah.
So I think we need to work on some more positive upbuilding, uplifting and encouraging and motivating these Black men. They've been beat down so long.
Yeah.
Sometimes by their own family.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about where change should begin. Let's talk about what change should look like. Let's talk about like what is the message? What is the overarching message that you guys want to send? Okay, we're going to talk about that when we come back. We're going to head to break, and we'll be right back on 94.7 FM. We are still here on 94.7 FM, The Gospel Giant, and we are talking about gun violence. And I am speaking to a panel of mothers who have actually lost their sons to gun violence. And when we left, I told you I wanted us to just talk about what does change look like? Where does it begin? And what does it look like? And how can we prompt change that's going to represent other grieving families, those families that don't have the platforms that you have, those families that don't have the strength and the wherewithal to get up every day and do what you guys are doing?
Okay, change for me is when we start respecting each other. First of all, we must respect our own race. We have to make sure that that these youth are not glorifying death. I mean, I say it all the time. I didn't want my son on a T-shirt. That is not a fashion statement.
Mm-hmm.
Or a quote, RIP, or whatever it may be. Or most of the, if you're on the opposing side, you're saying free your relative when your relative clearly killed somebody. It's just a lot of things that I feel like everybody wants to go out, oh, I want a T-shirt, I want a T-shirt, but you don't know what really, really is behind this, because once we leave that cemetery, that's when everything starts for us, the parents and the families. I just want to see us really, I think we need to get to our youth. We speak a lot. Tara and I go to different places speaking, but the children that are there are not the ones that really need to hear it. You really need to get like as they call them, the gangbangers or whatever it may be. Those are the ones that need to hear the message. Those are the ones who need to hear that, hey, the funeral home may fix your child up, but that's not what the parents actually saw. It's not, I mean, we spoke once before where we went graphic and told them everything, how it is. And it's, you know, and the kids in the audience were just boo-hooing, but I don't think those were the kids that really needed to hear the message. And I think if the message is really clear that it's not a joke, there's no coming back. And, you know, everybody will say, I'm gonna be there for you, or they riding for your love, your child, but then once your child is gone and the little balloons are gone or whatever it may be, they're gone. And I just want to see change about that and stop glorifying death. I just need us to stop that.
I also feel like change will start within the community. Here in Bolivar, what is it for the kids to do? Miss Rubin mentioned they're on the games, they're on social media. We need to have something for them to do and get more men involved. I think Michelle or Tara, one of y'all mentioned that. We need some men involved in the schools. At my elementary school, I only have 2 male teachers, and that's the only elementary, well, it's 4 elementary schools, but only 2 male teachers in there at my school. So we need more men involved. Extracurricular activities for the kids to do besides just sitting at home. What else I want to say about that? Somebody else can step in.
And I want to say, and I agree with all those, Fabre, change should start at school, but before school, it should change. It should start at home. Again, we have children raising children. They're raising themselves. Change should start at home, and it should also change. It should also start in the justice system. The justice system is failing us. It's failing us, especially our Black community. And I get tired of turning on the TV every day, hearing about our Black men that are killed, our Black children that are killed. We have to get in front of this, else, you know, we're losing the whole community. And so change should start at home, and it should start in our justice system.
I agree.
Yes, yeah. And also I truly agree with that. And also I think that change should start with the person. Sometimes we are not honest about our own backgrounds and what we've been through. Sometimes we go through some traumatic experience while we are kids, and we carry that for years. And then before you know it, we're hard, we're mean, we're low down, and we don't mind shooting you because we have not dealt with the pain we've been through. We've carried that all that time. So I think we need to start with making sure that we're okay first, dealing with that pain that you're going through, so you won't have to carry that years down the road. Because you got to be a positive person so you can uplift and build up other people. You can't do that when you are messed up and you are carrying all this junk in your trunk. So, I mean, but we have to really, it's okay to get a counselor if you need one. Just be honest so you can be an asset to someone else.
You know, I think that's a really good point because and I work with UT Health Science Center, and I work in the Department of Psychiatry. And one of the things that we say about ACEs, and those are those adverse childhood experiences that people go through. And, you know, we say you can't ask the question like, what's wrong? You have to ask, what happened to you? And although it's unfortunate that whatever happened to some of these people has prompted them or caused them to do these horrible things, many times that is in the background. Not necessarily all the time, but many times it's in the background. Michelle, can you speak to it as well?
I'm just going to agree with Tara and the rest of the lady. It starts at home. It really starts at home, because those generational curses that people tend to have, it'd be a trickling effect. And then we do need to have some extracurricular activities for our children who don't have, their doorkeepers are themselves. They're going home and taking care of themselves. And then I heard the other Tara say that our young people are glorifying death.
Yeah.
What does that say? They're glorifying death. Like she said, they want the t-shirts. Can I get a t-shirt? Who wants a t-shirt to represent somebody has died? So the combination of what everybody said, for me, changing the law, like I wrote the DA's office, I sent them Christopher's obituary. I wanted them to put a face with his name. I wanted her to see who he was, that she would, every time she would, and our prayer is every time she lay down at night, that she would see his face. And so I wrote the chief at the police department. I sent them obituaries because I needed them to know that he was a child that was loved by many, and not how they, one of the things they said to me that just kind of sticks with me now is, he said, your child was murdered, but he was not the shooter in the in that night. He was not the shooter. So should I be glad? Because you've already identified my child as not the shooter, but he was the victim.
Yeah.
And so that's the stigma we have, that all of our Black males have to be associated with the gang. And so that has to be a change in how they think of our children.
Yeah. And I hope that what we have going on in the world right now is going to prompt some of that change. We know that, it's not gonna, the amount of time that we've been dealing with these things, it's not going to change overnight, and probably not even in 10, 20 years. But if we can just get a good head start on some change, anything is better than what we have right now. I want all of you to just give me your final words. And Tara, when you talk, Tara Cash, when you talk, maybe if you can just tell us a little bit about where you are with your forgiveness, because there was really no resolve. I know that forgiveness is going to play a big part for everybody, especially, I think I can safely say all of us are Christians. And I know we as a people are big about forgiveness and everything, but when there wasn't even really resolved, and you, like you said, just a slap on the hand, how do you deal with that?
For me, and I definitely know what the Bible says, but forgiveness comes in time. And right now, I'm not at a point where I have completely forgiven the person that killed my son. For one reason, he has never fully apologized to me. He apologized in court, but I believe that it was at a time when they were about to sentence him. So he had to seem like he was apologetic, right? He's done some things, he's a rapper. He's a so-called rapper now. And so he's, I follow him on social media for other reasons. He got my son's face tattooed on his arm. And I think that's very disrespectful. He didn't come and ask me, could he do something like that? He got my son's picture tattooed on his arm. And I guess for him, that was a sense of, being apologetic. But I think that was very disrespectful. But what I'm trying to do is turn my pain into purpose. And what I've done, because my son didn't get a chance to graduate from college. He didn't get a chance to graduate from high school. I have established a scholarship in memory of my son's honor, and it's been 4 years. And to date, I have given away.
Is that, Tara? Tell us about the scholarship right quick. Just tell everybody.
So the scholarship, I established a scholarship 4 years ago in memory of my son, Curtis. It's the Curtis Johnson Memorial Scholarship Foundation. And it's for high school students that are interested in continuing their education and going on to college. And to date, I've given away 24 scholarships, $24,000 to 24 students in the Mid-South Memphis area.
Okay.
So trying to keep my son's memory alive.
Donate to that. How do they donate to?
You can go to Curtis Johnson Scholarship.org. Curtis Johnson Scholarship.org.
.org. Okay. Okay. Thank you. All right. So before we go, I just want you guys to give me any final thoughts that you have that you want to share before we leave the show today.
Well, I would like to leave. I remember hearing Michelle talk about how they just classified her son. They did me the same way. They walked over to the crime scene tape and told me that they were going to ID my son by his police record. And the next day they had to come over and apologize and say, your son was a good kid. I'm like, wow. And that was just so hurtful. I always say, think twice, act once before you pull that trigger. You just may save a life. Because when you do pull that trigger, not only do you kill that person, you kill their families, you kill dreams.
Yeah. Ms. Harvey, your final thoughts?
Just wanted to say that I pray for all the family members, mothers, especially mothers that go through this, because once you lose a child, it takes part of you. You are not the same. But God give you strength. You know, it took me 2 years to forgive the guy who killed my son. I wanted to do him in, but God will deliver. I'm in time. When I allow God to use me and enter into my life, that's when God gave me the wisdom to forgive him and the heart to forgive him. And so I'm thankful that I feel so much better. That weight is no longer on me because I was so sad and depressed. And but you know, joy comes in the morning. I'm okay now. So in time, only thing I'm saying is in time, God works out miracles. It takes a long time to forgive. I'm sorry, it does. It did for me.
Any of the rest of you want to share any of your final thoughts before we go today?
I would just like to encourage not just mothers, any family who have lost children to gun violence, to connect with other people. You are not in this alone. It is a struggle, but guess what? There's joy at the end of the rainbow, and so don't feel like you're in this bubble by yourself. Connect with somebody. Seek professional help if you need it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with seeking outside professional help, but surround yourself, I think we stated earlier, with somebody who feels your pain, who knows that pain. It's so much easier to relate to somebody who's been through the same thing you've been through.
Yeah.
I was going to say the same thing. We as Black people don't want to seek professional help. And it's okay, because on this journey, you will need professional help and connect and do group therapy. That also helped me as well. And another thing, journal. It's okay to journal. And journaling has helped me so much, because if I'm having a bad day and I just pull out my journal, I can write it out. And I feel so much better once I write it out.
Mm-hmm.
And continue to pray for all of us that's on this journey.
Yeah. I have to say thank you again. And I want to say to the listening audience, just to recap some of the things that you guys highlighted today: educate yourselves, people. Educate yourselves on the laws and do your part to help prompt change. If you want to donate to the Curtis Johnson Scholarship, you can go to curtisjohnsonscholarship.org. I am so glad that the names and the faces of your sons won't fade in the distance, because they have mothers that are brave and strong enough to take a stand in the midst of your hurt and in the midst of your pain, to find that purpose, as Michelle has said. And I thank you for sharing it with me today. I thank you so much. And I know that our listening audience, somebody has been helped by this today and inspired by this today. And I hope that soon we can talk again. And those of you that have pending cases, things will be farther along and they will be to the good. And I will talk to you guys next Saturday at the same time here on 94.7 FM, The Gospel Giant, on Doctor to Doctor in the chat room. We'll see you then.